Like they could have gotten anybody. I don't know why Aaron Taylor Johnson hit like I was talking to someone and he just came up like it's just this very like built, has good acting chops. I mean, he was Quicksilver, but he was Quicksilver when he was younger. Now he's a little bit older.
Yeah,
I
and he's
think
gonna be
he
Craven.
would. Oh, that hurt. That just ruined. That just ruined. I hate that they're making that Craven movie. Oh, it's already made. I'm sorry.
This Christmas, man. Fa la la
Yeah,
la 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 la.
yeah.
The following conversations are taken from our channel membership exclusive weekly live show that we do on Saturdays from 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time called Members Talk Live. Find out how you can become a member and appear on the show. All of the information is down in the description below, as well as all the links to the channels of today's guests. Check them out, and I hope to talk with you very soon. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about today. There's one big thing to talk about that may honestly be the whole show. I don't know. But joining us today, we've got Have You Seen That with T. What's going on, buddy?
Everything is going good, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Are you having any plans? Have you set aside 6 hours of your life to go watch the director's cuts for Rebel Moon?
No, no. So I saw an article where Sophia Botella was talking about a scar like that they wanted to show during a sex scene, and I was like, "What? A sex scene in Rebel Moon? Like, where does that even
Oh,
come
that's
from?" Like, it's like they're really trying to entice us to watch this movie. And as beautiful as I think Sophia Botella is, I don't want to watch the movie just to watch a sex scene from. I don't know why this article had to mention that. Like that was the tagline for the article, and I'm like, and this is on like a reputable news site too, or like entertainment site. I'm like, this is you trying to goad me into watching Re- Rebel Moon again. No, I'm
yeah.
just not. And
No, absolutely not. For me, it's like you had your chance. Like your first
yes.
impression is your most important impression. And if you're gonna put out copies of films that aren't even your true vision, just so you could like gimmick me into watching the Snyder cuts on Netflix, it's like I don't want to support that. So I'm not hitting play. And 3 hours more for each film, I'm like, no, I got better things to do. I just do. I have better things to do.
I think those movies are gonna do really well because I think I mean, Netflix, I don't know how they do their stats, but like every new movie is the number one movie for at least a week. Like I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
how
true.
I don't know how they manage that, but I mean I think people are gonna watch it. Like they'll probably watch like an hour of it and fall asleep on it. But I refuse to give Zack Snyder any more of my time or energy because you disappointed me. You had your shot. Like with part two, part one, all right, I got it. It was slow, like it was building up to the like climax, but the climax was so anticlimactic. I don't even know how you change that. Like unless they really like unless it's all new shots and
Yeah.
there's no slow-mo. If there's no slow, if I read a review and they said there's no slow-mo in either movie, then I
There's
might
no
watch it.
way. There's no way that Zack Snyder
Exactly.
didn't do slow-mo.
Exactly. Yes. Add 20 more minutes of slow-mo of like grain just flying up in there. Man.
You gotta get to 3 hours somehow. I'm sure that's how he did it.
That's just crazy. When does that come out? September or does it come out in August?
It's out
Who
now.
knows?
It's
The new
out now.
ones?
Yeah, the
Oh,
R-rated cuts
oh,
are out now.
good for them. I don't know why I thought they were coming out like September, October or something.
Because no
Good
one's
for them.
talking about them.
Exactly. Yeah. No, no, I'm good. Like
Yeah.
Jeremy Johns, who I think is one of my favorite, like he cracks me up, his reviews. If he comes out and says they're good movies, I might watch it. But like he's the only person that can convince me. And I know he's not gonna cover like he probably not even gonna cover the new ones.
If he does, I'll definitely watch his reviews for them. And if there's
Yes.
anything in there that entices me to like, okay, I want to see what they did, then I will probably go check one out and just start there. Because actually, the part one I actually did enjoy when it first came out. I mean, like it wasn't great or anything, but I at least was like entertained enough. And then when part two came out, I was like, okay, well, that disappointed me and disappoints a lot of things that was in part one. So as a collective, I didn't think they worked. But if they say that there's better things in there, then I might go back. But if they extend that table talk in part 2,
Yes,
where everyone
yeah.
just goes through their stories. If they extended that, and that's what these extended director's cuts are, no way. There's no
That's
chance.
exactly what I was thinking. Like, if it's just more exposition of just telling a backstory, I don't want to see that, man. Like, I don't want to see everybody's origin story, like longer, more played out origin stories of like how the lady got the blade and the spider person. Like, I don't want to see that. Like,
Yeah.
that's probably what the extra footage is, and a sex scene. Like, I don't
And a sex
understand.
scene.
Like, I really don't understand where that comes into play. But here we are.
Yeah.
We give you the one person who could play Victor Von Doom.
New mask. Same task. What can I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
I think collectively this is like my 4th video talking about this, so I'm really going to want to delve into your thoughts that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be our Doctor Doom in the MCU. This is not only just coming with a big star, this is coming with a huge payday for Downey and a huge payout for Marvel Studios. This is over at Dark Horizon saying Marvel spends big for Downey's Doom. The reaction to Marvel Studios' reveal of Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom in the upcoming Avengers Doomsday may have played like gangbusters in Hall H this weekend, but in the larger world, the response has been mixed. The reveal has provoked plenty of confusion as to how it will work. It has been indicated this is Doctor Doom, not a Stark variant, and an overall mixed reaction with some liking it and some calling it more of a desperation following Marvel's rough post-Endgame slate. Now, a new report in Variety has revealed that bringing back both Downey and directors Joe and Anthony Russo into the MCU fold is going to cost Disney a fortune. Sources for the trade say Marvel is spending $80 million alone on the Russos to direct the next 2 Avengers films. In addition, Downey Jr. will receive significantly more to play Doctor Doom across the 2 films. Downey's deal has also multiple perks, including private jet travel, dedicated security, and a trailer encampment. Downey remains the highest paid member of the MCU by far, with sources saying his appearance across 10 Marvel films over the first 3 phases has seen him take in between $500 million and $600 million from his MCU works to date. The Russo's deal doesn't include back-end composition, but does have performance escalators when the film passes $750 million and $1 billion thresholds. The brothers also will produce the 2 films via their Agbo banner, something Marvel typically doesn't do. The sources also say Downey agreed to return to the MCU only if the Russos would direct, as they were the only ones he would work with. Shooting on the new Avengers kicks off in London in the second quarter of 2025. T, lots of stuff to break down here, lots of stuff to talk about. First thing I think we need to just set the foundation on. Doctor Doom is Robert Downey Jr. in the MCU. When that was announced, how were you feeling? How did that hit you? Was it positive? Was it negative? Are you a big Doctor Doom fan? And do you see this being a good move for Marvel?
Okay, those were a lot of questions. So let's rewind back. What was it, last Sunday or was it last Saturday? It was
Saturday.
last Saturday. It was Saturday. So we did our Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review, and then I jumped on and did Ace's Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler review,
It was a lot of fun.
and it was. And then I see a message from you saying to join StreamYard, and I was like, was that a mistake? That had, because I truly was not tracking Hall H. I'm not like a news media buff. So then jumped on YouTube and I started seeing all of these just, oh, but the RD, no, I read a news article like Yahoo News or something popped on my phone like RDJ as Doctor Doom, and I was like, all right, this is fake news, and I just closed it. And then I hopped on YouTube and I just saw the hundreds. I mean, there were just people popping on there and they showed the video, and I was like, all right, that doesn't make any sense. That was my initial thought, was that doesn't make any sense. Like, it, from a fan's perspective, I guess it could because people love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man for some reason. Well, not for some reason, but
For some reason.
for good reason. But to think that he should play somebody else for some reason, I don't think that's a good idea. And I just initially hated it. I didn't. I just despised. I was angrily watching everyone's excitement. I saw your video and I was like, "Oh, why is everybody so excited? This is a terrible idea." And everybody was just screaming and everybody was hype. And I was like, "Man, this is just terrible." I totally disagreed. Right. So then Sunday happens and I started thinking about it and Monday, Tuesday, and I jumped on Kenny's stream. I think he did Wednesday, and we talked about it. But by that time, I calmed down, like because it made fiscally it made sense until I found out how much money he's making. That doesn't make any like you're gonna spend so much money on him, the Russos. Like the budget is probably gonna be close to 400 million, if not over 400 million. Like you have to make a billion and a half back to make the profit that you made off of any other Iron Man movie. Like, and maybe you make that. Maybe like this is no
Mhm.
Inside Out 2 we're talking about here, guys. Like
Yeah.
this is
Well,
like I
let's
mean
stay there for a second, actually, because let's
mhm,
talk about the Avengers box office, because this is like the most lucrative uh franchise in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At least it has been up until like
yeah,
this is a $2 billion average a movie franchise at this point. But the build up to the next Avengers film, at least when it was Kang Dynasty and we had Johnathan Majors in there, and we'll talk about Johnathan Majors a little bit later on the show as well. But when it came to the excitement for the next Avengers films, did you feel that that was as prominent in the fan base as it had been in the past? And do you think that the Avengers film, before this announcement, I felt like there was no hype. And I was honestly one of the people saying, I think this is the first Avengers film that won't hit a billion. I don't think that they've done well building up these new characters. I don't think the audience is attached to these characters that they've established. We don't even really know uh, who the Avengers are. A lot of people are saying, I think they could easily establish a new Avengers group in the Avengers movie and just kind of get a new team going, but in
yeah.
that movie alone. But a lot of people, that's a big thing, is we don't know who's in the Avengers, who's going to be showing up. I felt like the excitement was very, very low. And now with Robert Downey Jr. being Doctor Doom, whether negatively or positively, these Avengers films are being talked about, like how Avengers films in the past used to be talked about. And do you think that this move is going to get them over $1 billion? Do you think that they were going to hit $1 billion before this move happens? What I should be asking you is, do you think that they had any shot of hitting $1 billion before they announced Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, or do you think the Avengers hype was kind of fizzled out?
So that's kind of it's hard to really answer that because you just with the Avengers, you never know, right? I remember Age of Ultron comes out and people were so and I wasn't the biggest Age of Ultron fan. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't the first event. Like the first Avengers was like this event because
Yeah.
you're called like you had the movies prior to it. Like you said, we haven't built up anything for these latest Avengers. The Hawkeye series. Like, is it Young Avengers? Like who the Avengers? Like I don't know. You got Sam. Captain America, he has a movie coming out. Where he'll have the Falcon. Cool. I don't care. I don't care about the Falcon. No offense. Um, we got the Thunderbolts coming out before that, but like they're not gonna be the Avengers. Hopefully Elena is in it. Like I'm a real big Florence Pugh fan. But and Spider-Man. Like other than that, you got Captain Marvel who's hit or miss. Monica definitely won't be there. So the Avengers name itself, I think, could have got close to a billion. Honestly, like to answer the very long-winded answer was like I think the Avengers name itself gets you close to a billion because Age of Ultron made $1 billion, and I don't think that was a
But you
billion
also had
dollars
Age of
worth of movie.
Ultron was you still had the Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, which were still
Yeah,
beloved characters because of their past entries and the first Avengers, and you were also coming off hits such as Captain America: Winter Soldier and even Guardians of the Galaxy. So the ball was
Yeah.
rolling, and people were really whereas we're coming off of Quantumania, the Marvels, and more of these like hit and miss kind of properties where people are. I mean, before Deadpool and Wolverine, which we'll also talk about in a minute here, the MCU was looked at as kind of falling down a slope. And was that slope going to continue with the Avengers? Was always my kind of question when it came to that movie.
I never want to see Paul Rudd as Ant-Man again. Like, you just mentioned that, and it just brought back he's not the Avenger for me. Like you're right. This Avengers team is gonna be abysmal. Like you're missing the staples. And I'm one of those people. They're like the big Cap should come back. Chris Evans should come back. But I'm not one of those people. We should have had new movies come out. Shang-Chi was what was that, like 3 years ago? Like he's
Yeah,
gonna be an Avenger,
2021.
but his movie was so long. Like I forgot. Like you were naming movies off, and I was like, oh man, I forgot those guys were Avengers. Like I forgot about Doctor Strange because their movies are so long ago, and they weren't. I mean, Shang-Chi was great. Like I will say that was the best
Oh yeah.
movie outside of No Way Home of the phase that it was in. I don't even know. I don't know if it was phase 4. Yeah, it was phase 4. But yeah, like people forgotten about them. People forgotten about Wong. Nobody watched She-Hulk. Like they didn't like. Yeah, I don't know if the name would give the cachet. I think RDJ was a Hail Mary. I've said that publicly. I've said that I just think it's a Hail Mary, hoping that he brings people in. I know they're lying when they say he's not going to be a Tony Stark variant. He is for sure going to be a Tony Stark variant. Like I have no doubt in my mind. But does that get it to $1 billion? I don't know, because he's not Tony Stark. Like he's not Iron Man. If they try to play that up, people might revolt. Who knows? So,
Yeah. So you kind of already touched upon it, but let's go to Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, because I've put out videos on this. I've talked about this. I just do a pros and cons list on Wednesday, and I can see both sides of the argument here. Because on the one hand, I do think for the story that the MCU might be attempting to tell, because they've been trying to do this whole multiverse variants storyline for so long. And for me, it just hasn't really been hitting. Like the variants idea concept in the MCU has been, and I'm not saying this negatively because a lot of it I've enjoyed, but it's been for nostalgia bait. It's
mhm.
been bringing back old franchises to boost the box office with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Spider-Man No Way Home. We just had a bunch of
Oh yeah.
cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine. Heck, bringing back Hugh Jackman alone for Deadpool and Wolverine is also part of the variants. And then we had brought back Tom Hiddleston as Loki for Disney Plus, which was also a variant kind of concept. So for me personally, they've never really done something interesting with the variant concept as far as making it feel like there's any stakes or any kind of added thing to the multiverse by doing these variants. But when you take the biggest star and arguably the most beloved hero who just had a fantastic journey, a fantastic end to his arc, and then you bring a variant in that will be mirroring the beloved hero as the villain that the Avengers
Mhm.
now have to face. If it's all in the execution, as always, it always is. But if they can get it to a point where you get the emotional weight that the Avengers have when they are seeing Tony Stark's face again for the first time, where they have to face off against who they once called their friend and accept that it's not their friend anymore, there could be some really great drama and tragic elements to that story if done right. Where I think it'll be negative is if they just bank on the buck that this is Robert Downey Jr. People are going to show up for Robert Downey Jr. And I think there's a lot of pressure too. I think we should talk about this as well, that Robert Downey Jr. has a big uphill battle to climb with this, because we
Mhm.
can't see if they want him to be Doctor Doom. If they're saying this is not a Tony Stark variant or anything like that, he has to show us that this is not Tony Stark. This is Dr. Victor Von Doom, and he has to play it completely differently, which he is an Academy Award winning actor now. So I don't doubt that he can do it. But like on stage there when he's throwing on his sunglasses and doing the Tony Stark poses. Like, you can't do that in the movie as Victor Von Doom if you are not Tony Stark and you don't want the audience to see Tony Stark. And the question for you, T, is do you think they're going to be able to accomplish that? Do you think that they can get the audience to look past Robert Downey Jr.'s face as Tony Stark, who we've loved for 10 years? Do you think that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be able to get us to buy into Victor Von Doom? And do you think the audience will accept this as a different character?
No, and no. Like I don't.
All right.
I don't think they're gonna play it differently. I think that, like, as you were saying these things, I just had this vision of Victor Von Doom in a cave somewhere banging out his helmet. And I was just like, they're gonna do that. They're gonna do that. He's gonna be the antithesis of Tony Stark, right? And not so much the mannerisms, but like his story is gonna be like the complete opposite of Tony Stark. He'll probably be a weapons dealer, and then he'll have to create a suit of armor to cover his disfigured face because he got kidnapped by terrorists, and he's gonna become the evil version of what Iron Man could have became. Because I mean, in essence, that is what Victor Von Doom, like he goes into sorcery and he does magic instead of technology. Well, plus technology. But I have this weird feeling they're gonna turn him into like the anti Tony Stark, and that's just not gonna work with me. Like that, and it might work with people who are not invested in 30 plus films of the MCU.
Mhm.
A brand new fan, oh snap, that's Doctor Doom, and they'll go check it out for the first time. They won't know him because hopefully, like the goal was to cultivate young fans to become Avengers fans. Like if we keep going backwards and bringing in these super old people at this point, like to continue to be like heroes, eventually it stops working. That's why you brought in Haley Steinfeld. That's why you brought in Florence Pugh. That's why you brought in Tom Holland. Like the younger people, they were supposed to take over, and they're not allowing them to. And bringing him back is not allowing the young stars to take over. It's to be overshadowed by the old regime. That's why I'm against bringing Steve Rogers back. Like
I
let
am too.
Shuri, like she's younger. Like let her as the Black Panther be part of the team. Let her be the leader of the team. Let Thor be the muscle, but don't have Thor being the leader of the team. Don't have Doctor Strange being the leader of the team. Like they're old, and I'm old, so I understand it. But like you have to grow Kamala Khan into Spider-Man. She is essentially Peter Parker's, like she is a younger female version of Peter Parker, right? The
Yeah.
teenage angst,
Very
all of
similar.
that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, very similar story. Let her grow into that. Like, but bringing these older characters back and yeah, I think Robert Downey Jr. his appearance is going to have the opposite effect in the long run. Those two movies might make $1 billion, but that might be the end. Like that really
Yeah.
might be the end of the MCU with Secret Wars, which will completely be nostalgia bait because they're gonna bring everybody back for that. Like if you had a bit role, Crossbones is gonna come back. Like everybody, the Jessica Jones might show up in this movie.
Crossbones.
Like they're gonna bring every single person who's ever set foot on a Marvel set, and then they're gonna have that big, end credit scene. But who's gonna be on it? Like that Avengers team, like at the end of Endgame, man, that was so deserved. Like it was like we
Yes.
did, like, and they're just undoing it now by bringing them back. Like I that post credit scene meant so much. Like every time I watch it, I honestly kind of tear up. It's like, man, I was with them this whole ride. Like that's crazy, and they're just about to completely undo it. And
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson will come back in Secret Wars too. Like
Oh
it's gonna.
man, I really hope that's the one thing. Like Robert Downey Jr. coming back to do Doctor Doom, doing a different character. I can get on board with that. I'm actually very curious and interested to see what they do with that. And the fact that the Russos are coming back, and at Comic-Con they said like we weren't going to come back, but then they gave us a story that like we have to do. It's like, okay, that could just be BS that you're saying just to get us excited. But if you genuinely feel that, which I mean, Robert Downey Jr. getting $80 million to come back, I mean, is it a passion project? Probably not. Like, let's be
Story.
honest.
Story. Who cares? What? I don't care.
No way.
Listen, the whole movie could be just green screen and it'd look like green. You pay me $8 million. I'd play anybody anywhere for like $80 million. And he gets points on a movie too. So if the more it makes, the more money he's gonna get. And as you know, this dude's made $500 million off of the MCU. I would never act again, honestly, after making $500 million. Like, I'm not putting on no armor, man.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But when they start bringing back Chris Evans as Captain America, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, resurrecting characters, that's when I'm like, I'll be done. Like, that's when, like, I don't want that. I don't want him to be Tony Stark again. Leave Iron Man to rest. It was great. Leave it alone. Chris Evans is a little bit different because he didn't die. He's just old. So if you brought back Old Man Steve in like Captain America 4, like maybe there's a scene where Falcon goes and talks to him, like that would be awesome.
That would be dope.
I'd be totally fine with that. Like if he's just living life in a retirement home or something, it's like, oh, that's great because he's still around. But like Scarlett Johansson, don't bring her back. Don't bring back Iron Man. But I think you have a good point there too with like Endgame was so big, and ever since the first Avengers film, they've been trying to go bigger and bigger, and luckily that's come with actually being a little bit better, in my opinion. Whereas Secret Wars could just be bigger and messier as opposed to bigger and better. And I'm hoping it's not. But I do have real concerns for those movies. But where do you think? Because I think that Robert Downey Jr. is going to appear in Fantastic Four. I think either. Because one of the things that I was thinking about with this announcement too was I was like, okay, so you're rushing Victor Von Doom. Like you're rushing him. You have to be. Like you can't build this character up if you have an Avengers movie coming out in 2 years. Like there's going to be no build up. So how are you going to do the Reed and Victor Von Doom relationship? Like how is that going to start developing if you're going to do Doom in Avengers first? And they've announced that Fantastic Four will be in Avengers as well. But like that's such a core relationship with the Fantastic Four and with Doctor Doom and everything. So there's a piece of that that's going to be missing unless they can somehow put Robert Downey Jr. in Fantastic Four. And the fact that they're going to start shooting that, well, by the time this comes out tomorrow, they'll be shooting it on Tuesday. I think Robert Downey Jr. is going to be on set. And I think this was also preemptively a way to, of like, you know, not have it leak just through the paparazzi. Do you agree with that? Do you think his first appearance is Fantastic Four?
Correct. So as you're saying is I'm building a movie in my head. Galactus, they have Galactus peering through, you know, some building, and Doctor Doom is going to build a suit of armor to protect this planet from Galactus. Well, he's going to like
suit of armor around the world, same
like
different task. I can see what you mean. Yeah,
like this was a bad idea. Like the more I think of it, I was on board, but the more like unless they just do something totally different, and which is possible because my mind is I'm not the Russos, I'm not the writers. I just hope they do something different. I really do, but I don't. I think you lose the Robert Downey Jr. charm if you just make him into this cold, calculating person. Like I don't see him. I don't think like that brings nothing to the role. Just his face. At this point, if he's just this cold, calculating, you know, person, like I think they're gonna want him to be the antithesis of Tony Stark, but I think that's a terrible idea. Like they could have gotten anybody. I don't know why Aaron Taylor Johnson hit like I was talking to someone and he just came up like it's just this very like built. Has good acting chops. I mean, he was Quicksilver, but he was Quicksilver when he was younger. Now he's a little bit older.
Yeah,
I think he would. Yeah. Well, oh god,
it's a Craven multiverse at that point.
God damn, I forgot. That was another thing I forgot that existed, and it will. Never mind. Oh, that hurt. That just ruined. That just ruined. I hate that they're making that Craven movie. Oh, it's already made. I'm sorry.
This Christmas, man. Fa la la
Yeah,
la 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 la.
yeah. Once I mean, I think anybody they could have gotten anybody else to play Doom. I think that they got him to play him for a specific reason, and it's to do that whole thing. Because in Secret Wars, like I feel like Tony Stark, the actual Iron Man, will come back, and it's going to be like some fight between them two, like Doom and Tony Stark, and that's gonna like have emotional weight to it. That's undeserved. Like in my mind, I feel unless they have Tom Cruise come as Iron Man finally, which would
Oh man.
I would laugh so loud in the
It's
theater
just
if Tom
it's more
Cruise popped
gimmicks
up.
upon gimmicks upon gimmicks upon
Yes.
gimmicks. Like these gimmicks are fun in the moment, but are they time lasting? Like, are people going to care that Tom Cruise showed up in Secret Wars as Iron Man like 10 years from now? When
No,
we
because
like we only care because we hear the rumors and we want to we'd understand the reference.
nobody cared that John Krasinski showed up as Mr. Fantastic. And I thought that was like as a fan casting, everybody wanted him to be that. But like years later, we don't care. Like it's over.
Yeah,
It was
it was
it
a
was
pop
a
and now it's done.
yes. So I think this is a gimmick. Now, I think it will work. It's gonna work. Like I mean, he's Robert Downey Jr. He's become like America's darling. So I think it'll work. I don't think it'll work well. Like I think it'll make money, but I don't think that's gonna equate to it being, you know, nothing will be in game. Like I hate saying that, but it's true. Like that was a lightning in a bottle. DC tried it. They tried like everybody's tried to do something like that, but you will never you'll never recapture that. Like unless they literally start now and just build up these characters. Make these movies like you said, make don't rush it. Make movies that make me care about the new Falcon. Make movies that make me care about Shuri as Black Panther. Like Black Panther Wakanda Forever isn't enough. Like Ant-Man Quantumania ain't enough to make me care about Cassie Lang. Like
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen her grow up, but like I need to see her put on a suit and like actually become a young Avenger. Like, but we're not doing that. We're focused on making another Thor movie, and hopefully they make another Captain Marvel movie. But like, I think her time is come and gone. Like it's Miss Marvel's time. Let's make a movie with her that's well written, and just I think that movie will make $1 billion, right? You get teenage
Yeah.
girls, it'd be like the superhero Barbie movie. Like you have, like you got the talent. They got the talent, like, and they got the money. They just gotta use it properly.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're gonna be talking about this for the next 2 years and probably
Yes,
beyond when the Avengers film comes out. But as it sits right now, Robert Downey Jr. I think I might know your answer, but Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, do you buy or sell the idea? I think there's things there. I
I'm
am gonna
so
buy it. On the
I'm
fence.
so on the fence. I'm on the fence. Like I want to buy it, but I just
That's
can't.
fair.
Like I just can't. I really want to buy it, but I'm just Doomsday. So much is riding on Doomsday. If Doomsday
Yeah.
doesn't work, Secret Wars for sure won't work. So
They got to give it everything they've got. Moving on from the new villain, let's go back and let's talk a little bit about the previous villain, which was, of course, Kang the Conqueror, played by Johnathan Majors. Now, they were really putting everything they had into this one guy. He was supposed to be the next big bad going forward. His Avengers film was supposed to be Kang Dynasty. Now it's Doomsday, as we just talked about. For reasons, outside of movie business, but he lost the role. We don't have to get into the whole thing there, but he did lose the role, and we haven't really heard much from Johnathan Majors since then. Well, unfortunately, he was harassed on the street by paparazzi, and the video is infuriating. Honestly, if you watch it, I was very mad, just like the lady just chasing him down constantly asking him questions about probably the biggest heartbreak in his life.
It was announced that Robert Downey Jr. was, being brought back from Marvel to play Doctor Doom. I mean, it looks like he's replacing your villain, Kang. I mean, are you hurt with the new direction that, Marvel is, going?
Yeah, heartbroken.
You are. I mean, both Robert Downey Jr. and Ezra Miller have had, a history of trouble with, the law and getting arrested for felonies. I mean, you only had a misdemeanor. Do you feel like it's unfair that, you're not being given the same opportunities as them?
I think it's fair that Mr. Downey is being and has been greeted with patience and curiosity and love, and that Mr. Miller's gotten the same treatment, and that they're being allowed to work their art and be creative at that level, It's not. I didn't really get that. So,
He was asked if he felt that he was fairly kicked out of Hollywood, basically, that Robert Downey Jr. and Ezra Miller, which I thought the reporter using Ezra Miller as an example of someone who was doing things in Hollywood and then was exiled and was welcomed back into the fold, because where is Ezra Miller? I don't think Ezra Miller has been welcomed back into the fold.
I hope we never see Ezra Miller again. But...
I haven't. The Flash came out, and then I don't know where they put that guy, but he's buried somewhere by Warner Brothers. I don't know. He's in the water tower. He's kept away from the public eye, because I haven't seen him since the Flash came out. But Johnathan Majors was asked about, if you think he got a fair shot, and he didn't think that he did, and they were putting a lot into this character and into his performance, and as an actor, this is the biggest job in Hollywood he could have gotten, and he lost it. So I feel horrible, just horrible for the man. But one of the things that was asked by the interviewer was, do you want to come back as Kang? And he was like, heck yeah. If they want to do it, if the fans want it, I'm all game. Let's do it. So it kind of brings up the question, do we think that Johnathan Majors will come back as Kang? And should he come back as Kang? Because I'm kind of a mind of two thoughts here, where I do want to see him come back as Kang for the redemption of both the man and the character, because the character for me wasn't utilized all that well. I thought Majors always gave a great performance. I thought he was great in Ant-Man. I thought he was great in both Loki season 1 and season 2. But I felt like the ball was dropped on Marvel's part with getting the general audience on board with Kang. Because I thought Kang, just the presence that Johnathan Majors brought, was set up in that way to be a compelling, interesting, and threatening villain. But you dumped him on Disney Plus. No one was really watching Loki. Loki is such a niche show within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's so weird and out there. A lot of people, my wife, I usually go to because she's the most casual as you can get. TVA broke it for her. She could not wrap her head around the idea of TVA. She thought it was stupid, dumb, jumped the shark for the MCU. She bounced off Loki halfway through season 1, didn't want to go back. And I had a couple people in my life that had the similar stories where it was excited for Loki to come back, but the TVA concept, timelines, all that kind of stuff, it just broke the reality and they bounced off the show. So Johnathan Majors was on a show that very few casual fans were watching, and the buildup for his villain was happening on a show that was so niche. And I felt like they could, and putting him in Ant-Man, which Ant-Man is also the lowest performing franchise in the MCU. You're putting the introduction to who's going to be the big bad for the rest of the MCU in the franchise that the majority of people don't go and watch.
That was the plan. Not a great plan.
All of it was just bonkers and weird, bad ideas for me. And then, of course, Majors lost the role. They've decided to ditch the Kang character as it appears, and they're going with Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. I would like to see him come back, but I don't know if the general audience cares to see him come back at this point. T, you've heard all this. You've heard Johnathan Majors' words. You were watching the journey of Kang. Seemingly it's done in Loki season 2. They kind of have a line where they go and just gather up all the Kang variants that were messing with time. So where do you stand on all this? Kang coming back. Do you want to see him come back? Do you want to see Johnathan Majors come back to the MCU at some point?
I think he will be back. I mean, I don't think I mean, it's not gonna. There's never gonna be a Kang Dynasty movie, but I think he probably will pop in on Secret Wars. It'll get a cheap pop. People will, because I mean, the black audience. I don't say I speak for all black people, but a lot of people felt like he got a bad shake, right? He got a bad rap, and when you mention him in context with Robert Downey Jr. and Ezra Miller, which, like you said, Ezra Miller has disappeared. He is somewhere, like doing whatever
Yeah.
Ezra Miller's doing. But like Robert Downey Jr., I'm old enough to remember Robert Downey Jr.'s downfall, right? Like this cat went from the Brat Pack to he was like the drug, like every other week he was on the tabloids for getting DUIs, getting arrested, uh, you name it. He was in the news for it, right? It took probably a decade or so after all of that in order for, and he started with very small indie movies to kind of get himself back into it.
Hmm.
And I mean, of course, it helped. Like he's Robert Downey Jr. Like his like nepotism, like his family is in
Right.
the circles, right? So it's not like he couldn't. Like it's just the world didn't want to see him for a while, and he probably didn't want to see himself for a while. So uh yeah, like it took a while for him to come back and get to where he is now. Um, will Jonathan Majors get there? Unfortunately, for minorities, we do, but we don't get those opportunities. But if we do, it's gonna be when he's older, right? The guy's a fantastic, he is a phenomenal actor, though. That's the
Oh
sad
yeah.
part about this. Like he killed that role. And like you said, that role was they had him in Ant-Man, and he made me want to watch Ant-Man. Like Quantumania is not a great movie, but he was great in that movie. Every time he was on the screen, he had presence, right? So it's unfortunate. I do think he will show up in Secret Wars for a very minor role. I hope he doesn't show up for like Doctor Doom, just kill him really quick and like really embarrass him even more. But yeah, I don't think we'll ever see Kang as it was intended, which I thought was a bad idea anyway, because they, like you said, they really didn't build him up. Like they built Thanos up because one, everybody knows who Thanos is, and then he would just be in small doses, right? Like he would
Hmm.
just be the big bad, like, oh man, you failed, and then he would crush his minion for failing, and then it's like, oh, this guy's real, this guy's the real deal. But Kang, who was supposed to be the badass version of Kang, got beat by Ant Man. Like,
Yeah. Bunch of ants. Bunch of ants
yeah,
tackled
like
him.
terrible. Now, if he would have killed Ant Man in that movie, which I thought was gonna, like, there's a scene like at the end when Ant Man pushes everybody to go through the portal and he's fighting by himself. I was like, oh, Kang's about to kill this guy because that's what Kang should have done. Like,
Yeah.
Kang should have killed, like, he should have beaten him to death. And then I would like that would have set up the Kang dynasty. Like, yo, he just killed Ant Man.
And
Like, but he
Ant-Man's a
got,
character you could lose. Like
yeah,
he's someone who like if he died, there would feel like real stakes, but also there wouldn't be that much mourning for losing Ant-Man in the MCU. And I love
they,
Paul Rudd. I like the Ant-Man character, but he's lower
Exactly.
tier.
It's because it's Paul Rudd though. If you killed Paul Rudd on screen, like that makes your character that much more of a badass and end on like some of like Infinity War level of him just standing there like, yeah, I just did that. Like in some like that's how you build up Kang. It's not getting beat by Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Like because they had a one-on-one fight and he got beat. Like he gave the speech of how he beat all the Avengers and all these different timelines. Like I fought Thor. I beat the god of, you just lost to him in a fight, like in a fist
Yeah.
fight. You lost to Ant-Man. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
just I thought Kang was just a weird choice. Right when I first heard, I was like, Kang. I've never like I'm not a huge Fantastic Four comic fan. So it wasn't like Kang was like if they say Galactus, if we're gonna make Galactus the big bad, I'm like, oh snap, that's Galactus. When they
Yeah.
say Kang, I was like, that's just weird. And Jonathan Majors wasn't a big name at the time, so it's like, all right, that's and a black lead. That's interesting, right? and he killed it on Loki. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great because of the way he played that character. I was like, oh, once he turns it on its other side, like, because he was funny, he was making the jokes, and he was just weird and
Yeah.
eccentric. And I was like, oh, once he turns it on, like if he turns it the other way, oh, he's going to kill it. Like, and then he did in Ant-Man, but they just ruined the character. I don't think anybody would have taken him seriously in Kang Dynasty or whatever the other movie. It was because it was Kang Dynasty and it was supposed to be something else. I can't remember what they had named the other movie, but it just I
think it
don't
was
think it
always
would have
Secret Wars.
worked.
I think it was King Dynasty and Secret Wars.
Oh, the Secret Wars? Okay. So I mean, I think Doom is Doom is a more recognizable villain than Kang. So just on that recognition itself, it's like between Two-Face and Joker. Like you definitely want Joker because Joker's the bigger villain. So I think Doom is on like Doom. Then you got Magneto. Then you got Norman Osborn. Like those big villains that you could really,
Yeah.
build something on. And they don't have to be Thanos level powered, but like Doom's intellect, his presence should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think Johnathan Majors was always better than the projects he was in as Kang.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
absolutely. He was too good for them. Like just be honest. He was too good for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
I think he could have probably made a good Doom if this hadn't happened. I thought he would make it. Like I mean, I think he could play almost any character he wants because he has so much range. Like he who remains, whatever.
Yeah,
He
he who
who's
remains.
like the build up to that was crazy in Loki season 1. And then when you finally see him and he's playing like this very weird, like it's so weird, and he starts laughing and he's doing all these, he has like these quirks, and I was like, I didn't see that, but like, damn, this guy, like, that's crazy. Like he had me hooked because at first I was like, what are they doing? Like, this is the big bad. He's like, no, I'm not him, but the other guy, and I was like, oh snap. Like I was like, oh, if he turns it the other way, man, like what could have been, what
Yeah,
could have been.
and I even liked his character in Loki season 2, which I know some people
Yeah.
thought he went a little bit too like Looney Tunes cartoony with. I thought it was great, like with the stutter and everything. Like he was always able to separate the various Kangs from each other,
Yes.
and they were always very defined and different from one another. And I thought
Correct.
he did a great job. I'll always appreciate his work in the MCU, and
Yeah.
I do honestly hope that he gets to come back at some point.
Unfortunately, in the climate that we're in, and we won't go any deeper, just the climate that we're in, it just wouldn't allow for it. So I do understand why they moved away from him, because it, to me, it's like the Flash. Like not moving away from Ezra Miller cost them, cost Warner Brothers millions. Like I think if they would have moved on to someone else, the movie was still not great, but I think it wouldn't have had that dark cloud that made you want to, like, I went into that movie looking for flaws in it, and it really didn't have a good time because of me looking for flaws. If somebody else was in there, I would not have gone. I would have just been like, "Oh snap, Michael Keaton's here. Let's have Supergirl.
Yeah.
Let's have a good time." And I think a lot of people would do that if Jonathan Majors was still in the MCU. They would go into it looking for the cracks in the armor, and if you look for cracks in any armor, you're gonna find them. Like so. Moving away from him was the best idea, especially because Kang just wasn't that good of a character, like to me. So, would they have done this to Robert Downey Jr. if it was him? Probably not. Unfortunately, it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah. Well, do we buy or sell that Jonathan Majors will appear again in the MCU as Kang?
I'm gonna buy it. I think he will.
I think there is hope. I mean, the MCU is going to go on for so long. And there's going to be kids that are nostalgic about Jonathan Majors already. Maybe it was the first. Ant-Man Quantumania was the first movie they ever saw. So
correct. Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back one day.
Would you want your old role back, like your old job back as Kang the Conqueror?
Kang?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
We do have some people in the chat contributing to the conversation as well. We've got the Ace Avenue, beloved channel member, saying that you feel bad for Majors, but I feel like Ant-Man Quantumania MCU wanted to move on from Kang. I mean, They said that once all the trial stuff was coming out. So honestly, I could go either way, whether or not they were genuine or not, because they were probably just preemptively ready to pull whichever card they needed to pull and not get flack that it was because of what was going on currently. We've got Jay Pylon in here as well, beloved channel member. Glenn Powell has replaced Majors as the next big thing. I mean,
That is true.
yeah, Glenn Powell
Yeah.
is the next big thing people are talking about, and Majors was on the rise. I mean, he was also fantastic in Creed. In Creed 3, he was so good.
So I did a review of Creed 3, and as I was doing the review, I was like, Johnathan Majors, he has Ant-Man coming out. And as I was doing the review, I said, God forbid something bad, because his star was on such a high rise. I was like, God
Yeah.
forbid something happened. And I cut that out of my review because I was like, I don't even want to wish that on him. Like, I started watching a lot of his interviews, and he just came across as a different human being than what he was. Like, he really did. Like, if you watch any of his interviews, and maybe that is him, and it was just a terrible night. Like, it was a bad time, but a lot of other things came out, during that case. But yeah, Glenn Powell, like, man, I mean, he is the it guy. I will not be surprised if he's in the MCU in some capacity in the next few years.
Oh
I
yeah,
would not be
they'll
surprised.
try. They'll
Oh yeah,
try to
of
get him for
course.
sure.
Of course.
Any big name they try to get.
For
Jay
sure.
also says, I hope that Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom is a fake out to bring in an alternate universe, Earth 5089 or something like that. I mean, they've already said that Fantastic Four is going to be in another universe,
Yeah.
and they'll be colliding. So I think they're already kind of doing that. Jay also says if they would build an Earth away from 616, that might be fire. Yep, like I said, Fantastic Four. I think you're going to see it. Alan Richardson should be Doctor Doom. Talk about intense and intimidating as Doom. RDJ is kind of small frame for the role. I mean, there were a couple people that I was thinking for Doctor Doom that I liked more. Like Henry Cavill was a big name that was getting thrown out there before this announcement that I always liked. I liked Mads Mikkelsen being thrown out there as well. Was there any Doctor Doom fan casting you heard about that you liked?
I didn't hear about too much fan casting. I thought Mads Mikkelsen is great. I thought he would have been great as Victor Von Doom. Mentioned earlier, I thought that Aaron Taylor Johnson, one who Alexander Skarsgård, I thought would have been fantastic as Victor.
Ooh, that's a
Von
good
Doom.
one.
I thought, like, because he has the stature, he's a bigger guy, at least taller, and he has range. Like, he has good acting chops. I thought he would have played a good Victor Von Doom.
Yeah, that's a good pick, actually. I
but
didn't think about him.
yeah, he was actually the first person I thought of when I heard, like, oh, Dr. Doom, pick this guy. I mean, he handsome guy, and but he's a good actor though. Like, that's the thing. Like, and because I'm always thinking of Julian McMahon, like the guy for the Dr. Doom from the Fox Fantastic Four. I was like, yeah, they got this charismatic, he's like a rich socialite guy. That's why I keep thinking they're gonna do with the RDJ is
Robert
have him
Downey
like
Jr.
is like the opposite of Iron Man, like this rich guy who butts heads with Reed Richards because he should be the smartest guy in the room, but this guy happens to be, even though he was given all the tools. Alan Richardson, I don't know. I'm not I don't dislike him. I just always see him as like this big oaf, even though he's great.
I mean,
as
that'd be a big Doom.
He's fucking huge, man. Like, when he stands next to other people, it's like, damn, like that guy is jacked, and he make Chris Evans look small. Like,
yeah,
uh,
he's one of those guys where you're like, you could do the old Incredible Hulk show again. Just paint him green, and you would buy into it.
yeah. Seriously, man. He's like there's a scene in like the first season of Reacher where like him and the cop, I can't remember her name, and she's like 5'4", like he's like towering. I was like, man, this is just weird. Like, he's just so much bigger than everybody else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I watched a couple episodes of Reacher, and that dude is so big.
Yeah,
No wonder why he was a Ninja Turtle in Michael Bay's, because I thought they CGI'd and put some stuff on those guys, but I don't know, man. He's pretty huge.
he always got a career in wrestling.
Oh yeah. Jay also says, I don't think anyone would have been protesting Majors if they bring him back. Plus, they're bringing back Alec Baldwin for Boss Baby. I don't. Are they bringing back Alec Baldwin for Boss Baby? Is Boss Baby still a thing?
Boss Baby is for sure still a thing, but
Is it
I
really?
don't think it is. It's a Netflix thing. Like Netflix
Oh,
owns,
okay.
like they have a TV show on Netflix. My kids used to watch it, but they don't watch it anymore.
That's crazy. Well, thank you guys so much for contributing to the chat. And we are out of time. T, I want to respect your time. I know that you got things going on today. So we did not get to every topic we were going to talk about, but we still talked about quite a bit. This was a great show. I appreciate you being here, man. And I appreciate you being a member as well. Please tell people where they can find you before you head out.
All right. Well, you can find me at Have You Seen That with T, my YouTube channel, in the letterbox. Have you seen that? I dropped my trap review yesterday, so that's doing pretty well right now. And looking forward to Alien Romulus. So I'll be reviewing that next week.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too. I'm hoping to see Trap this weekend, but we'll see what happens. And once again, guys, thank you all for joining us for this episode of Members Talk Live. Lots of stuff to talk about, lots of things we'll still be talking about in 2 years to come. The MCU, man, they never fail to give us things to talk about. That's one thing you can
Seriously.
say for sure. And Jay is saying, T, your Trap review was great and spot on. So there's some love
Thank you
for
so
T,
much.
before we head
Thank
out
you
of
so
here.
much, Jay, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and T is linked down in the description, guys. Go check them out along with the rest of our members. And we'll see you guys again next week. Take care.